Ready. Play.
Okay, hello and welcome to our review of the year for Talking Tennis's fifth best women's match of the year, right? On the WTA Tour. And that was a match that actually came at this year's Olympics, the Summer Olympics in Paris. And it was a match between Qinwen and Angelique Kerber. And obviously there's a lot of intrigue for this particular match because obviously it was Kerber's potentially last match, right? It was going to be her last tournament anyway. So, and obviously on the other side of the net, Zheng hoping to get a medal, guarantee a medal by getting to the semifinals and face off against probably it was Iga Swiatek in the semifinals, right? So, and yeah, obviously she had a great chance of getting a medal before the tournament started. But I mean, yeah, Vansh, what do you remember about this match? I mean, going back.
Yeah, I mean, you set it up pretty well. I think the major storyline was definitely, Kerber's last tournament and, the end to a magnificent career, 3 major titles and, world number one, former world number one. And for Zhang, she had come in also having won Palermo, had a disappointing Wimbledon, lost in the first round, Lulu Sun, breakout player, got to the quarters. So, but coming into the Olympics, you were kind of thinking, if there's other players besides Iga, Zhang was definitely on that list, right behind her. So, coming into this match, you definitely thought, Zhang was going to be the favorite. She was going to be largely more or less in control. Kerber was having a very good week. She'd beaten Naomi Osaka. She'd beaten Leila Fernandez, I think, en route as well. 3-setter against Jacqueline Christian. So it was going to be intriguing because you could tell that Kerber was fit. She was healthy. She had some form on the clay as well. I think 4th round maybe in Rome. So coming in, you were like, okay, this is going to be intriguing. I wonder how the rallies will play out. Kerber's never been supremely great on clay, like silk clay. She's made a couple of Roland Garros quarters, but nothing like nothing like the other surfaces in her resume. So coming in, I kind of was like, okay, I'll see how it is. I think Zhang should win. Maybe there'll be a tight set in there, but the quality of tennis that we saw was pretty high throughout. 3 hours and 12 minutes, and there was so many momentum shifts. Like in the first set, they each broke each other like 3 times, and they went on these like 4-run spells. So I remember like coming out, and Kerber was hitting these really great lobs. She was like, changing directions of rallies really well. And obviously we know she's like incredibly gifted when it comes to like maneuvering players around the court, because she's not the fastest and she doesn't serve the biggest. So she has to find many other ways to win. And so she's a very, very good counterpuncher, but also she was very skilled at like, making like returning really well, getting Zhang into the corners, like, hitting behind her. Her forehand down the line was really big in this match. I was rewatching the highlights, and there were like so many points where she was just like on the stretch, like hitting a forehand down the line winner, like just redirecting shots that were just, it just reminded you of like Pete Kerber. So Zhang really needed to play some really excellent tennis to win. And overall, I think she did that. The first set actually was quite a gut puncher for Zhang because she was up 5-3. I think she served for it at 5-3 as well, if my memory serves correct. And Kerber just played like 2 or 3 really fantastic points, and she breaks back, and then she goes up a break 6-5, and then Zhang breaks back. So then we're in a first set tiebreak, and that's when it could have and then that first set tiebreak, Zhang was also up a break, and then or a mini break in the tiebreak, and then Kerber comes back and wins like 4 of the next 5 points, takes it like 7-4. So she has all the momentum. And this was like the first set that lasted over an hour. And there were some, there were some really key rallies here, which I don't know how much in depth we really want to go into, but like big picture, I think it was just, it was just like Kerber was playing much better than we were expecting, I think.
Yeah, right. I mean, in the tournament, but also in this particular, starting from the beginning of that match as well. But yeah, she got the early break, didn't she? And yeah, you made a good point as well. But obviously, Zhang coming into the match had won Palermo. She was probably feeling really good about her chances here. But I think, maybe she's probably putting quite a lot of pressure on herself to maybe get a medal for her country. I think that was a huge thing for her, clearly. And also coming into it, she's just, she'd had a really tough match against Emma Navarro, having to come back, so it looked like she might go out at one point, in that previous match. And I think coming into it, it was really, I think it was like really hot as well. I think in Paris, and in this particular match, it started off, I think, hot, and then they actually, it's like hot and humid, and the roof came on because it started to rain as well. So that was something that added into it as well. But obviously Kerber, if we focus on the first set, I guess first, and then Kerber, she went up an early break, right? But I felt like Zheng handled that pretty well and she came, her hitting was looking very good in this match. But she came back and was managed to break well with some good returning, especially. And
she played a great return game, like hit like 4 winners, and broke back.
And that, I mean, she handled that well. Obviously, it's never easy to go down a break early, but it was. I felt like though in that first set she showed those moments, but there was maybe like, I don't know. I remember like a few points here or there where you felt like maybe that was just I don't know if it was nerves or whatever, but there's a few points here or there. She like missed drop shot, or I remember there was a point in the first set as well where I think it dropped short, and she ended up hitting it long. And and it was it created a bit of pressure for her unnecessarily perhaps, but in the key points of the match or the set, I should say. But of course, Angie was really good, and I felt like it's just quite a nice sort of matchup in styles. This match just felt like, because you've got the obviously big hitting from and the power there, and the spin on her shots as well from Zheng, but then also like the sort of counter punching and the sort of the craftiness and like you said, when she was hitting a lot of those shots, sort of into going back and behind Zheng, that was very effective, especially I think in the first and second sets. And she had to use that as well to like outmaneuver her, be a bit more crafty. And
I remember it was 3-1 Kerber, and then it was 3-5. Zheng served for it at 5-3. Kerber breaks back, holds, so it's 5-all. But then Zheng's serve gets broken at 5-all. So then Kerber is serving for the set at 6-5.
Right.
But then Zheng breaks back. And then they go to a tiebreak.
Yeah, I mean, she did well, Zheng, to sort of bounce back when she had the chance there. I think, but obviously it didn't go her way in the tiebreak. But I think in the first set as well, or just I think Angie was hitting some of those some of those high balls as well, which I think the moon balls were
those
very deep moon
balls to like reset the rally, and she would always go to Zheng's backhand. Where she'd hit like the top spin backhand balls down the line, and then Zheng would try to have to force something out of it. Like it was a little bit tougher, which I think Zheng is very good at, because on clay, she hits a pretty heavy ball with a lot of RPM, pretty deep behind the baseline. She can generate quite a lot of power. So I felt like, okay, like she has to try to break out of that pattern somehow. But the issue was that if she hit it pretty short, or if she hit it kind of central off of that, then Kerber could go down the line with her forehand if the backhand cross court wasn't good enough. So I felt like sometimes that happened, and then there were other times where her backhand was really good and she was able to rush Kerber. So it just depended, because like if there wasn't enough on it, then I felt like Zheng was in control, like it was in her hands. But
I think it maybe took her a little bit out of her rhythm in that first set, because I think when Angie started hitting, I mean, I think she hit like, she hadn't really been doing it up to that point, like hitting drop shots or like hitting those loopy balls. So maybe I think it took maybe Zheng a bit out of her comfort zone there, and that's why it kind of worked at that point. And I actually remember watching because Zheng got out of the she lost in the third round, I think, in the French Open this year, and it was to
she lost to Evanesian, I think. It was
Evanesian, and Evanesian was hitting a lot of those kind of
good
those
point.
loopy
I remember
balls.
that.
Yeah, and that was she's perhaps getting some flashbacks here for that, but yeah, obviously Kerber, she did really well in that first set. It was suddenly a lot of pressure there going into the second set for Zhang. Yeah, obviously going into the second set, what do you remember about how that one started off? Because it was...
So what I remember about that, there was this one really long game. That's what I remember. It was a 1-all. I think 1-all, Kerber trying to hold for 2-1, and it was like 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. She had like 5 game points, and it was like this really, really long game. It actually ended up being not that significant to the match because she ended up breaking, but then Zheng ended up breaking, but then Kerber broke right back. And Zheng played a little bit of a not so good game when she was up a break at 2-1. So she immediately lost her advantage. But then what I will remember about that match is the last 2 games that Zheng played at the end of the set. So like 4-all to 6-4. She hit 3 really good winners to break Kerber at 4-all. And the forehand was like really firing.
Yeah.
Like there were some examples of like Kerber trying to do her really great counterpunching, but Zheng was hitting her forehand down the line really well. So then that set up a lot of good opportunities for her. There were also some times where she was able to push Kerber back behind the baseline. There was one really good forehand drop shot, I think, too. So she started to, like, I think, relax a little bit more and play some of her best tennis towards the end of the second set. I expected that to carry her into the third, but then it didn't because then the roof closed. And then the whole complexion of the match kind of changed. There was like a long break or like, the break between sets. They closed the roof. Kerber gets revitalized, and then all of a sudden the third was the most fascinating.
Yeah, she did really well to get the break going up there. Yeah, it was like a really nice return game, and I felt like her forehand was, throughout most of the match actually was really good, and it started to get really good in that second set. I think I lost count of the number of times she hit a forehand into that far corner, whether it was up the line or going inside out into that, like into Angie's, I guess, forehand corner. But like, she hit so many balls just like over that high part of the net as well. It was so good. Like, it was working really well in this particular match. And then I suppose going into that third set, you're thinking the momentum is with Zhang, but then of course it was Angie that actually went up a break, didn't she? It was
I think she went up a break. I think she broke in the fourth game. So Zhang was serving at 1-2, and then Kerber breaks because then she holds for 4-1, and there's a really long game at 3-1. Zhang has a few chances to break back, has like 3 break points, doesn't get it. I think Kerber plays like maybe the point of the match on the third break point to actually save it.
Yeah.
And there was this like volley that eventually finished it for her. But I remember there was this really, really long exchange, cat and mouse.
Yeah.
Like sort of, Kerber hits it in the open court, and I'm thinking this cross court is really good, but Zhang is super fast, so she gets it back anyway and makes Kerber play a really tough volley, and she's able to put it away. But that was like at that moment when Kerber went up 4-1 and broke for, when she broke for 3-1, that was one sloppy game that I felt Zhang played because she threw in a double fault, she threw in a couple more forehand unforced errors. Kind of like at that point, I think they showed the stats. It was like 10 unforced errors in the set, and like 5 or 6 winners. But when she was more patient, she was doing a little bit better. But I think at that point I was like, okay, this is a completely different match. I wonder if Kerber can actually close this out. But then but
that particular game with the one that she held on with Angie, to make it, she held on long juice game, but she held on for 4-1, right? And at that point I was thinking, wow, is she actually going to do this? And you felt for Zhang because it was a pretty good game. But then Kerber, when she won that incredible point that you mentioned, you just felt like, wow, is it really going to be her day? But then I think on her next opportunity, Zhang broke back with some pretty good play over herself, right?
Really good game at like 4-2. Yeah, I mean, she was just overwhelming Angie in that game with her firepower and just, hitting her forehand really, really well, but also but just really, really big off of both wings. Just too much power, I felt like. Um, but it was controlled. It wasn't like she was going for lines. She was playing it very strategically, like very deep, kind of waiting for her chance and then pouncing. So it was a really great game from her to get that
Mm-hmm.
break back, and then she holds for 4-all pretty easily as well. I did feel like, for Kerber, it was texting as well, even though she held for 4-1. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
like, you knew that Zheng was in it. She wasn't gonna just hand over the set. I didn't get that feeling because, like you said, she created those chances, and it was a bit unlucky that she didn't break back. But she played some really good points, but
Mm-hmm.
I think Kerber was just very inspired. I think the crowd was with her a little bit at that point as well, because they kind of knew what was on the line for her in her career, and see if she could try to play
Yeah,
for a medal. But
and that
yeah,
the crowd were starting to get really into it as well. I mean, yeah, they all know that it's going to be Angie's last match, and obviously a lot of Chinese fans there for Zhang as well.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, it just felt like the tennis reached a new level as well in that final set as well. I mean, both players, yeah, Angie was just starting to find some of those angles that she can find so well, and some of the counter
yeah.
punching as well. I mean,
From those like
uh,
really crouched down positions, like the way she's able
yeah,
to just, you know,
yeah,
get
it
those.
was really impressive.
It was crazy. Yeah, yeah. I felt like that's when they played their best tennis. I would say, like from basically that 3-1 game all the way till
Yeah.
the end of basically all the way till the end of the match, because the tiebreak was just unreal
Mm.
from both.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of because you were, obviously both on a lot on the line for both of them, which is,
yeah,
perhaps why they were playing so well in that final set. But then, yeah, with Zhang coming up with some of those shots, big shots in the rallies, but then, Kerber just being able to match her and sort of read her play, but not only read it, but like actually make some of those shots, some of those winners, or counter punching winners, was just like it was surprising, I have to admit. But then, yeah, it was great to see because because there was a lot of pressure there as well because Zhang probably favored right to win, but then but she was still managing to sort of come up with the goods and go for her shots and not be back down, and yeah, it was just good to see.
mhm.
And then eventually, yeah, we actually get to the tiebreak, which, yeah, well, I mean, it was very entertaining itself, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was a roller coaster because I remember I remember Kerber got the mini break, but then she lost 4 points in a row. But Zhang was outstanding in those 4 points. Like there was this one. There were three ridiculous winners that she would have hit to go up 4-1. I think there was one ace. There was one like forehand setup shot
Mm-hmm.
that she then knocked off with a volley, and then there was another forehand winner. So she
Mm-hmm.
hits like three winners or two winners and one ace to go up like 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, I'm like, okay, she's got this. I think Kerber, this was a really awesome effort, but Zhang is probably winning this like 7-3 or 7-4. But there was another twist, of course, because yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think actually no, she held on pretty well, but then she double faults at 4-2 when they're changing ends. Um, and then she puts away another winner, like this one at the net as well. Really good forehand volley, because Kerber got quite a lot on the pass. I remember. So then she's up 5-2. So at that point, I'm thinking, okay, like Kerber has to win like the next 2 points, or this is done.
Mm.
And I think she only won one of them, so it was like 6-3. And then that's when Kerber just impressed me so much because she saved all three match points, and they were all like outstanding. Like there was one
Yeah.
second serve return winner, forehand down the line. I remember that one. And then there was another forehand winner. This one cross court, I think. But they were in a rally, and it was like a really high intensity rally, and somehow Kerber like matched Zhang pace for pace. It was
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. You couldn't say it was because of Zhang,
Yeah,
feeling the pressure or choking at all. It was just
yeah,
Kerber
no,
was just shocking you there with how good her play was. And
exactly.
if you
Yeah, yeah. I don't
if
think
you were
Zhang did
Zhang,
anything.
you would have been, man. I don't know. That must have felt crazy. Like, I mean, just to, 'cause it was just there. You're thinking 3 match points, surely.
Yeah,
But credit, I suppose, goes to Zheng for how she responded in the next point, because they're at 6-all. She's just lost those 3 match points, but then what happens next? I remember.
I remember the 6-all point. This one was massive because there was some big heavy hitting, but Zheng was not backing down. She showed a lot of courage. She had a really good forehand up the line, but Kerber does pretty well. She loops it back, and it's like kind of, it's in the service box, but it's not a super easy one. Like Zheng either can take the backhand on the rise, like maybe hit it down the line, maybe come in, maybe hit behind Kerber. Like she has some options, but she goes for a drop shot and it's superb. Like she just gets it over the net. Backhand drop shot winner down the line. And I'm just thinking, wow, like what a time to pull that off at 6-all in the third set. Tiebreak 3 hours and 10 minutes in after Kerber just basically played 3 spectacular points. So
and to do it at that point in the match, just a perfectly executed drop shot and a point like that. And then I feel like maybe earlier in the match, some of her drop shots weren't coming off, but she got better at that as the match went on. And to do it at that particular moment was it kind of it was impressive just after what had happened. And I suppose that sort of represents in a way like sort of the progress that she's made this year and in her game. And I think she's definitely become tougher in those big moments in general. And obviously then she goes on and wins that match point, and obviously great disappointment for Angie, but I mean it was a huge amount of emotion actually that was released by Zhang there. I mean, understandably so. I mean, she really wanted to win that, and she gets that win, and obviously she ends up beating Swiatek in the next round as well, and then of course goes on to win the gold medal. So
it was one of the most impressive title runs, I have to say, all year, because you look back, I mean, she double bagels Irani in the first round, and then she beats Rusa, but then against Navarro, that was another match that it's not going to make like our matches of the year list, but I mean, she had to save a match point in that one. So she lost, and then it was similar to this one where she lost the first set in a tiebreak and then had to come back and win the next 2. And and that was obviously like that was a really high intensity, like really big pressure, slightly controversial match as well, with some words exchanged. And then so like for Kerber to push Zheng again and basically like play, Zheng had to basically play like 6.5 hours in like 3 days before playing Iga on clay, and like her at her favorite venue. So that was quite something. And then of course the biggest upset probably of the year, like when she beats Iga in the semis, even though like Zhang's caliber at that point, still top 10 player and everything, but you're still thinking Iga, Chatrier. It's she's down 4-0 in the second set, somehow pulls it out, plays really well. Iga obviously quite nervous, not one of her best matches. But then the final as well, she handled the pressure so well against Vekic, and I'm really glad that she had one moment like this year, Zhang, because it just felt right, like, because I feel like she had a lot of other really great moments, but it was kind of like she wasn't the main character, like she was kind of the background figure, because like a lot of finals, and loses that epic to Coco at the end of the year, a really well played match. But I was glad that she got the win in this one.
Yeah, and I think it was a huge moment for her, no doubt. I mean, easily the best title, or winning a gold medal in her career, and she may never have a chance. You never know; she might not have a chance to win another one. So obviously massive. And then perhaps this match against Kerber, I mean, it's maybe hard to say that because she went on to beat Swiatek in the next match, but you could argue this was the most important match for her just to come through. It was very tight, and like I said, like she was so relieved, and almost, I don't know if she was crying, but she was very emotional at the end, like when she won that match, and it tells you just how close it was. And and then obviously so consequential as she does end up winning the gold medal. But I just think it's interesting because that's obviously a big title. I think that's probably given her maybe the belief that, you know, she can go and beat big players and win these big events. But obviously, you talked about WTA final. She lost to Coco, and she's had a lot of difficulty beating Sabalenka.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how she does going into next season. Bit of pressure as well at the Australian Open. But for me, I'm actually most interested to see if she can have a run at the French Open this time, because I mean, third round is, you know, definitely not good enough from her point of view, and clearly she's obviously a big title like this on clay and Roland Garros for the Olympics. So it's going to be interesting to see if she can actually step up, and if she can, given how well she's done in the latter half of this year, you know, there's a lot of points potentially to make up there, and it'd be interesting to see if she can do that where she might be in the middle of next year, because she'll definitely be hoping that. Probably not going to do much in grass, I would imagine, but but it's definitely interesting for her. And I don't know if you have a little word on how this match was, maybe for Angie. I mean, obviously being her last match, I mean, obviously it was a nice way for her to finish off her career, right?
Yeah, it was a really, really nice send-off. I mean, you know, clearly you play some tennis like this and you're thinking, wow, you still got, you know, quite a lot to give. But it was clear that these kind of weeks were more going to be one-offs, just because, you know, she had come back after a long time. She was 36. So, and then, you know, to play this kind of tennis, beat Fernandez, beat Osaka, and then really, really push the eventual gold medalist was had to have felt like, even though she eventually lost the match, it was, you know, she went down the right way. Like she really, I don't think she could have given much more in the tiebreak, and I don't think she'll have many regrets about how the match played out. You know, so I think you know, it was one of those losses that you go, you know, with your held pretty high, and you can look back at her career and just, you know, the amount that she was able to achieve, like 2016, win 2 majors in the same year, you know, win an Olympic silver, finals of the year, and championships as well. Like she had some epic moments, beat Serena a couple of times in major finals. So that was it was fitting that it ended at the Olympics, because she's always, I think she came back at the United Cup as well. So like both of her last 2 events in her final season were team events, and she ended up, you know, faring pretty well but I guess in United Cup it was still very early in her comeback, but they still made the final. So they ended up winning, actually. My bad. Yeah, Germany won the thing. So yeah, she was part of the winning team there, and then her last event also a team event. So
yeah, not bad at all for your last year there. And yeah, it's a good point as well. I mean, she, in this tournament, she didn't have to, she played some tough players. It wasn't easy, and she did admirably. Really nice way to finish off her career. And do you think, obviously we've got that top 5 there in the WTA list for talking tennis. Do you agree with Zheng Kerber at number 5? Do you think that's...
Yeah, for me, I just kind of wanted it in the top 5. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely argue the order, whether it's 4 or 5 or 3, but I definitely think it was just so high quality, especially at the very end. Like both players were playing really well at the same time. You had 2 tie breaks in there as well, so all 3 sets were pretty close. This one, in terms of just sheer like tennis and drama, for 3 hours plus, it was like one of my favorite matches to watch all year. It was just super entertaining.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially that last set. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I think it's a little bit of a different kind of atmosphere as well, because it's at the Olympics. The crowd is a bit different. So like you've got a lot of German fans. They're not necessarily big tennis fans or people that are going to a lot of tennis matches. So you can sort of feel like a sort of different. They appreciate it in a different way, and kind of, it was a nice atmosphere there.
I mean, this was a very good year overall, I think, for WTA matches. Definitely better than the ATP, I will say, when it comes to really high quality ones that you could debate the order, especially after the top 2. But also for Zheng, I mean, this must catapult her into a whole different level of stardom in Asia and China specifically. Like to get a gold medal, bring
Yeah,
that back to China, like especially after all the success that Lena had.
yeah.
Like, how do you think, like, how do you view her popularity in that region? Like,
Oh,
something like
for
this.
sure. I mean, Zhang is certainly massive in China. I mean, I think having the gold medal just catapulted her, yeah, for sure, to a level of stardom that's beyond. Like, I mean, now many people in China or in this region, they know her. Um, Even if they're not tennis fans, right? They're people that maybe they follow
Yeah.
sports a little bit, but that's the level she's at, and yeah, good for her. And it's going to be interesting for sure because, I mean, arguably she was the fourth best player although she's finished fifth in the rankings, right? Arguably the fourth best player because she did get to a slam final, but then also winning that gold medal. I know
Yeah.
Pauline has
There were
had a
no
great year
points
as
for
well.
this one, so that's why.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, you could definitely say she's the fourth best this year, having actually won the big title and made a
Yeah,
slam final and finals of the year. And yeah, I would, especially second half of the year. I mean, there were times where yeah, I think she was the second best if we look
right.
at just the second half, like post Wimbledon.
But yeah, I mean, yeah,
Like,
Rebecca and then Swiatek wasn't,
yeah.
really around for the latter part,
Mhm.
but yeah, so but then yeah, still like I mean, Rebecca was there at the WT finals, and then yeah, Zhang managed to beat her then and got to the final, and yeah, I mean, it's actually potentially the WTA, could be really exciting next year if all these players
Yeah.
can kick on and actually have a good year. I mean, you'd have like
Yeah, for sure. And like you said,
five
Roland
players.
Garros, that seems to be the one where I feel like Jung is in with a real opportunity to maybe win it. Just what we've
Yeah.
seen against Iga, especially, like she's now won 3 of the last 5 sets they've played on that court. Because I'm going back to 2022 when she also won the first set in their fourth round meeting. So that's a matchup. Like, yeah, I would love to see that again on clay. But even her against Coco Sabalenka, I feel like she's like right there. It's
Mm,
because on the other hard courts when she plays Sabalenka, she's just rushed all the time, especially on the forehand, and it's just a little bit.
yeah.
It's a lot tougher for her to absorb that pace. But I feel like on clay, when she has that deeper return position, she has like more shape on her shots. She can actually like she has a bit more time to get her feet set. I
Hmm.
feel like she can do quite a lot of damage.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's no doubt that, her performances in, well, especially at the Olympics, but I mean, just in general, because I think now she probably feels like um, that she sort of belongs at that level because
Yeah,
although winning this gold medal, but then also like her performances like in the latter part of the year she didn't beat Slabalenka, but she played better than she ever has done in that
the Wuhan
WTA
final was
Wuhan final, yeah,
competitive. Yeah,
and then yeah, obviously getting to the WTA finals, getting to the final and losing into a tight match to Coco, she's going to know that she's got a little bit extra to go, but she doesn't have too much extra to find, I think, to get some of these big wins, and then who knows what kind of confidence that will give her going forward. So yeah, really interesting because potentially, hopefully, we'll see Rebecca back as well. And then Swiatek's obviously got to get back into the swing of things, and then we mentioned Osaka. We don't know what level she can reach. I'm not gonna make too bold predictions about her, but you never know. She's definitely not someone that players want to face in the first round. She'd be unseeded for at least for a while. So
Ugh.
yeah, interesting
Yeah,
times.
definitely. Yeah, I think for Zhang, the biggest chance will be like you already said, post Australia to Wimbledon, basically. I know she has like a Rome quarterfinal maybe to defend, and maybe like something in Dubai, maybe a quarterfinal, but hardly most of her points are all going to be in the second half of the year. So
Yeah, and I
let's
think
see.
this year was it Madrid? I think she had to retire in the first round.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, definitely a lot of opportunity there, and Yeah, and I don't think she. Yeah, it was because after she reached the final at the Australian Open, right? But then after that, like the few tournaments after that, maybe disappointed in terms of like the expectation after that. But so yeah, I feel like there's a few tournaments, maybe like Indian Wells or something, that she could also do well at, and yeah, it's going to be a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely a lot there. Like you said, the whole WTA really, in general, the top 5, top 6, plus those other wild cards like Naomi and like Andreeva and Schneider and players like that. Like it's just you just go down the rankings and you're just like, wow, like it's
Mira Andreeva. Yeah, I
deep.
didn't even mention her at all until now, and yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Still not even 18, right? And yeah, she's already given them a lot of trouble. So definitely really interesting. And anything else you want to add on going forward, or
not a whole lot. I just I was thinking also like the kind of points that I saw Zhang play in this match and the way she was constructing them, with like on clay, and just how good her footwork can be when she's in in the right space, and just how much I feel like she's improved quite a bit this year. She like you feel like experience wise she's gained quite a lot, and you feel like she really belongs amongst the very best. There's probably still a couple of areas she can definitely improve on, which I think would take her even to the next level. Like obviously the first serve percentage, like in that third set against Kerber, she was at like 58%, but the first 2 sets she was below 50.
yeah,
and I feel like for someone who serves so as well as she does, she racks up so many aces, but sometimes it's counterbalanced with maybe a few too many double faults or a few too many kind of looser service games where she obviously she has that little bit of a hitch which makes her serve really hard to read, especially the first serve. But then there's other times where I feel like just a little bit of tinkering there and she could be even a better server.
Well, yeah, it was obviously she's had a really good second half of the year this year, but then if just looking at that second half, I mean, you talked about the serve. I mean, I think actually her serve percentage did go up like a couple of percentage points, maybe 2 percentage points. So I mean, that's actually fairly significant for her. And then statistically in this latter half of the year, she was just doing much better all around in terms of points won on that serve, but then also her forehand potency and the backhand as well. And it's just going to be, I think she can, but it's just if she can carry that on into the first half of next year, then she could have like a really good year. But just remains to be seen whether she'd do it. But looking forward to seeing it anyway.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I think that pretty much wraps it up then for our review of this really nice quarterfinal match at the Olympics between Zheng and Kerber. Of course, Zheng came out the winner. And thanks for joining me, Vanch, on this Talking Tennis video. And I'll hopefully speak to you again soon at some point. Thanks a lot.
Really enjoyed it. It was great to get your perspective. I feel like you were the best person to talk about a Zheng match with. So
okay. Thanks a lot.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.